There's a kind of exhaustion that comes from when you've actually succeeded. Many of us have hit milestones, checked boxes, and built exactly what we set out to build, only to find ourselves sitting in a space that feels surprisingly thin. It's that nagging disconnect where your life is pretty full, but still feels unaligned in your soul. If you've ever felt that the fullness is still not complete or losing the flavor of your actual purpose, you're not alone. In fact, it's easy to get stuck in the comfort of good enough. I spent a lot of time thinking about why good enough is such a dangerous place for many of us to live. It's safe. It's protected. It's energy-saving mode where we can keep the engine running without ever having to really challenge the design. We're capable people. We can make things work. But there can be a massive difference between what we built and what we're actually built for. Think about the way something is seasoned. Before it has any real depth, layers, or character, it's just there. It's functional, but unrefined. It's missing the depth that only comes when it's met with intentionality that's specifically designed to change its nature. In the world of whiskey, distillation is the process of using heat to separate the essence from what doesn't belong. In our own lives, that same process helps us refine our raw effort into our true calling. It's not about doing more. It's about looking at that space in between. The moment we realize our good enough success isn't feeding our soul, and the uncomfortable fire that actually makes that alignment possible. Most of us have figured out how to exist, how to show up, and how to make a life. We found a rhythm that works, a way to take our talent and our effort and turn it into a life that is, by most accounts, thriving. We meet the demands, we hit the marks. There's output. For leaders, this often looks like the title on the door, the weight of the responsibility you carry, and the respect that's been earned over time. You're trusted, relied on, and the results around you are evidence of the years you've invested. For everyone else, it looks like a full, productive life. You built something you're proud of. You're providing. You can see the fruit of your labor. And none of that is accidental. But even inside a life that works, there can be an awareness for something that is missing. Just enough to notice. A sense that while everything functions, it doesn't quite resonate. That good enough has stopped feeling good. It's the realization that you've built a life that holds together, but you haven't yet stepped into the life that you were built for. In the distillation process, grain, water, and yeast are heated until they rise as vapor, then cooled and captured. What comes off the still is clear, honest, complete. In the industry, it's called white dog. You might know it as moonshine. It's the raw, unaged spirit fresh off the still. It's technically finished. It represents the successful completion of the distillation process, but the flavor is a little thin. And while it's technically whiskey, it isn't what the spirit was meant to become. It's success before significance. When you think of whiskey, you don't think of a clear liquid. You picture that amber glow, clear and warm. It's the color of a sunset caught in a glass. Sitting with a whiskey like that, you aren't just tasting the ingredients that were used to make it. Instead, you're tasting the earth, the oak, and the vanilla. It has depth. The difference between that clear moonshine and the finished world-class whiskey isn't just a label. is a transformation. All whiskey starts out the same way, thin and clear. But the difference between purpose and significance in a whiskey doesn't happen in the still. It happens in the barrel. In the distillery, the still is a place of effort and production. It's where the raw ingredients are processed into a spirit that is technically finished. But the barrel is a place of surrender and time. It's where the spirit stops moving and starts maturing. It's where the clear, sharp liquid finally meets the element that will give it its color, its character, and its very soul. This isn't the heat that creates a spirit. That work is already done in the still. This is the fire that prepares the container to hold what comes next. To get that rich amber color, or the vanilla, caramel, and other flavors, the barrel in which the whiskey is stored has to be charred by fire, burnt inside. This charring process turns the inside of the barrel that is touching the whiskey black and caramelized. The results of this fire and the heat is what allows the whiskey to become what it's meant to be: rich, layered, and full of character. In the same way, the same fire that transforms a barrel is what transforms us. The fire represents those high heat moments in our lives, the pressures, the pivots, and the seasons where the heat feels like it might be too much. For many of us, our instinct is to avoid the burn. We think that if we feel the heat, we must be doing something wrong. But here's the distinction. It's the fire that allows the seasons to actually change us. When that flame hits the oak barrel, it triggers a process called caramelization. The heat literally breaks down the bitter starches in the wood and turns them into sweet sugars. This is where the flavor comes from. The fire also creates a layer of charcoal that acts as a filter, pulling out the harshness and the sting of the raw spirit. The heat isn't there to destroy us. It's there to caramelize our character. It's the bridge that allows the seasons of our lives to finally turn our good enough success into an amber legacy. It's the bridge between what we've built and what we're actually built for. We can't control when the fire shows up. In leadership, that fire might arrive as a strategic shift that unsettles your confidence. For others, it could look like a season of silence, or the realization that the life you've been spending years building no longer fits the person you've become. Our instinct in these moments is to escape the burn. But significance is calling us to do something different. So there's a legendary story from 1910 at the Old Forester Distillery. They had a massive vat of mature, finished whiskey that was ready to be bottled. Success was sitting right there. But then a fire broke out on the bottling line. The manager was stuck with finished whiskey and nowhere for it to go. So he made a decision that defied the good enough logic of the time. He pumped that finished whiskey back into a second set of new charred oak barrels. He essentially forced the whiskey to encounter the fire in the wood for a second time. By pumping that finished liquid into brand new, heavily charred barrels, he wasn't just storing it. He restarted the transformation. The whiskey had already finished its first season, and it was successful. But the circumstances forced it back into a fresh container that had been prepared by a new fire. That season lasted far longer than anyone wanted, but when they finally fixed the line and tasted the liquid, they realized that the accident had created something that the original process never could. The whiskey was richer, darker, more complex. The whiskey wasn't just saved, it was double oaked. But here's the thing about a barrel. To do its job, it has to be permeable. If you put that white dog spirit into a barrel that has been lined with plastic or sealed with wax, you could let it sit for 50 years and it would never change. It would stay thin. For the spirit to become amber, it has to be able to breathe into the wood. The wood has to open up. Many of us have spent years perfecting our seal. We've created a version of ourselves that's impermeable. We've built a container of having the answers and maintaining the image. We think the seal is what protects our success. But in reality, the seal is what prevents our significance. When you're impermeable, nothing gets in. Not new wisdom, not deep connection, and certainly not soul-level alignment. You can sit in the barrel of a great career for decades, but if you've sealed yourself off from the heat, you'll come out exactly as thin as you went in. And this is where the metaphor shifts, because whiskey doesn't have a choice. The barrel doesn't choose to be charred. But you and I, we do. We have to be willing to allow the char to change us towards significance. The fire of your current season is trying to break that seal. It's trying to create pores in your character. It's trying to make you permeable so that the seasons of your life can finally get inside and do their work. And remember, the char isn't just about adding flavor. It's also about subtraction. In the barrel, that layer of carbon acts as a literal filter. It traps the chemical impurities that give the raw spirit its harsh and metallic sting. In our lives, the result of the fire is a work of subtraction. When we stay present in the heat, the char starts to trap the impurities of our doing, the ego, the need for validation, the obsession with efficiency. It leaves those things behind in the wood. The sting is gone. The sharpness has been traded for depth. And that's a choice only a person who is willing to be charred can make. You move from being a product of your effort to a manifestation of your significance. If your season is lasting longer than you planned, what if it's just a second charring? If you've ever gone to a whiskey tasting, you know you take notes on what you've tasted and what you want to remember. Here are my tasting notes from this conversation. First, success isn't the finish line. It's the raw material. The moonshine state is a win, but it's not the destination. It's just the moment the spirit is finally ready for the transformation of the barrel. Second, the fire is an invitation, not a punishment. The fire is what breaks down the bitterness of our doing, so the sweetness of our being can finally surface. And third, significance is found in the char. It's the charring that makes us permeable and allows the seasons of our lives to actually leave a mark. If we don't let the fire change us, the aging won't matter. Many of us are living in that clear, sharp state, successfully distilled, but still seeking significance and wondering why it feels so thin. The path from success to significance isn't found by distilling harder. It's found when we stop avoiding the fire and start leaning into the char. It's the moment we allow our character to be caramelized by the very pressures we've been trying to escape. If this episode resonated with you and you'd like to sit with these ideas a bit longer, I prepared a set of tasting notes and reflections for this conversation. These are to help you examine your own successes and navigate the fire of your current season. You can find those at craftedclarity.net/tasting notes. Thanks for pulling up a chair in the listening room today. And remember, clarity isn't found, it's crafted. Thanks for listening to Crafted Clarity. If you're a leader wrestling with the tension between success and significance, or if you're trying to align your work with a deeper calling, I'd love to connect with you. If your organization is facing questions about strategy, whether it's alignment, ROI, or building confidence in your team, this is the work we do every day at iBrand. And if you walk this journey yourself, or maybe you're right in the middle of it, I'd love to hear your story and maybe even share it here on the podcast. You can find me at craftedclarity.net.